I'm Al Philreese, and this is Poem Talk at the Writer's House, where I have the pleasure of convening three friends in the world of poetry to collaborate on a close but not too close reading of a poem. We'll talk, maybe even disagree a bit, and perhaps open up the verse to a few new possibilities. And we hope gain for a poet and some poems that interest us some new readers and listeners. And I say listeners because Poem Talk poems are available in recordings made by the poets themselves as part of our Pen Sound archive, writing.upenn.edu/pensound. Poem Talk has traveled, and ModPo, Poem Talk and ModPo have traveled to New York, and today we've convened here in Lower Manhattan at the amazing Renee and Chaim Gross Foundation, located at 526 LaGuardia Place, a space that celebrates the sculpture of Chaim Gross and displays his and Renee's remarkable art collection, and remarkable is an understatement. Most folks will hear this episode, as usual, as an audio-only podcast, but if you are viewing our YouTube video, hello, definitely check out the B-roll that Chris and Magda will be adding to our conversation. And my saying that commits them to doing some B-roll. We also want to thank Brittany Cassandra, who's the director of collections here, and Sasha Davis, the executive director, for welcoming us, not just this time, but many other times, to this marvelous place. And I'm happy to say that Brittany and Sasha have consented to join us at the end to help us with our Gathering Paradise segment. Meantime, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined, although it says in my script, I'm joinered here by Lainey Brown, a beloved, italicized, underscored, beloved colleague at the Kelly Writers House at Penn, a coordinator of ModPo, a teacher, editor, poet, dear supportive friends of many poets, whose recent books, just to name a few, because there are a lot of recent books, the translation of Lilies back into lists, nominated for the best title of the 21st century, The Poet's Novel as a Form of Defiance, Intaglio, Daughters, and a recent volume, Everyone and Her Resemblances. And by Sarah Riggs, poet, filmmaker, visual artist, translator, author of something like, I use something like, Sarah, 8 collections of poetry. Is it actually exactly 8 collections, not something like?
Well, there are a couple little ones in French that don't exist in the 8 English ones.
So that's why I said something like, so let's just say 10. Whose translation of Ital Adnan's Time, I acquired that book recently, Nightboat 2019. It's so good. And it seems appropriately awarded the Griffin Poetry Prize. Congratulations belatedly on that. And the Best Translated Book Award, and who counts among her mentors, in addition to Adnan. Anybody want to guess? Mentors of Sarah? Michael Palmer.
Lynn Haginian, Bernadette
Anne
Mayer.
Waldman.
Cecilia Vicuña, Anne Waldman. Great. And by Leanne Brown, who is first and foremost in my mind a svam, a super friend of ModPo. Svam. So instead of reintroducing her again and again and again for the umpteenth time, it's time for a Leanne quiz. First, Leanne Brown, who grew up in City State. No, you're not supposed to. City
Charlotte,
State?
North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. That's an easy one.
I think you said born in.
I said grew up in.
Okay.
Did I make the quiz or did you make the quiz?
Born in Japan is more interesting.
Stop. That was my next. Who was born in Japan. You really can't resist, can you? Who founded what press in 1989?
You got it.
Tender Buttons.
Tender Buttons Press. Who earned an MFA in 1993 from?
Brown
University. Do you have a connection to Brown at all?
Just the name.
Whose Instagram handle is?
Oh, I don't know that.
There are 2 of them, but the harder one, I think one of them is like Tender Buttons, something or other. But what's the other one?
I don't know.
Lainey's not on Instagram. So.
Lainey is defiantly not on Instagram. Tend to the moon. Tend to the moon.
I tend to the moon. And I tend to the moon.
And who has appeared in how many ModPo videos, Lainey?
More than 10?
Yes. Yes, there's a number as participant, meaning like this, having in a conversation, and then another number in which her own work is discussed, mostly without her being there. No guess? Total of 38.
What?
32, probably 11 of them were in Scotland, but 38.
Wow.
32 is participant 6, in which her poetry is discussed. Well, hi guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this gathering here. Today we four have gathered here to talk about 2 poems by the late Stacy Doris, whom the 3 of you knew well. One is titled Ménage, trois, and the other is A Month of Valentines. They were published in her book Paramour of 2000. Both are performed and recorded at a SUNY Buffalo reading, October 30th, 2001. I forgot to check whether that was a Wednesday. If it was the Buffalo Wednesday gathering. They used to call it something on Wednesdays. And these are available for listening at Pen Sound's Stacy Doris page. Ménage à trois, Doris tells us, goes on beyond what she reads in the recording, but she says, maybe characteristically, I think I'll stop here. But she was good, and therefore we will be good with the shorter version. And as for A Month of Valentines, she only performs a brief selection of these calendar item length mini poems in boxes. So after we listen to Stacy's reading, I'll ask Leanne, Laney, and Sarah to take turns reading the other items, or some of the other items from the calendar. So here now is Stacy Doris via Pen Sound, followed by our group here reading live. And I'm going to do you think of Pen Sound as pretty technically savvy, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play literally with my phone. I'm going to play the 2 recordings. So that's what's going to happen now. And let's see if it works. Here's Ménage à trois.
Okay, no more requests. That's it. Yeah.
We have page 58, Ménage à trois. I guess it's how you say it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. But I'm glad you are picking these because I never, you guys over there, because I never have read these actually, and I always wanted to, but I was like too shy. So. Ménage à trois by the same authors. 1. A beginning has no beginning. All giving, already given. As lover, as beloved, as one, another, and other. We am are. Love what has not now know. Not know now. The more, the one, the merrier. 2. Commit. Such delights, talk over, look, one, another comes. Light, smart, body, part, same, whole. I read some Valentines from the month of Valentines. Glycine, and this is the book Centerfold, in case you didn't notice. Glycine, my sweet without end, hung from my skin a bunch of dreams. Pick some, your teddy bear. My island penguin, angel frame, our body's reunion drives flamingos insane and mangoes a game. Mary Annie, love you me more, my love's yours. Oscar. Baby back. Big pants, little worries, many hugs. You're hungry. Tom M. Red rose. All leather, rare flowers, your cavalier lips, my ponytail puff to dinosaur shape. Let's fuck. PhD. That's just like days 1 through 6, 1 through 5.
Okay, Sarah first. Want to just pick any of them and read one? Then we'll go down the line.
Danish, fat bear for hot bunny, slippery dishes dream algae, gentle fork pierces goody. Here comes, get ready, scooter.
Soft squirrel with the nut brown eyes. 20 years later, I still love your fur. Bury our treasures, all their fall flavors. Kiki.
Grace, thank you for last marvelous Friday. I hope next privacy and your happiness against me. Love me above all. I love you above everybody. Mochi.
Dahlia, my little mop, don't rag on love. It's always great. Grrr.
Madam, our sunny brooks, our milky ways, our chubby bunnies, all stew in plum sauce. Lassie.
My daub, my lamb, my chop, my leg, my all naked, my rib, my pork and pie. In warm, my steaming, you win. Come.
Should we do 3 more? Sarah?
My Russian dolly. At the my Russian doily. At the flamboyant palace on its periphery, staircase in your adored presence, this sighing lion, huge gusts of wind, howls, abandoned. Why? Her plaything.
Bambi. I love you when, you love how. I love you how you are. I love you when you love how you love me how I do. The Wasp.
Eglantine, dip my plume in your ink again. So long, sailor.
I'm just going to add carp of the day. Scooby, Scooby Doo. Be do, be do, be do. Scooby Doo, be do, be dee. Dee dally, dally lee. Pom pom. Okay, why don't we talk about Ménage à Trois first? So, Lainey, I invite you. Let's invite everybody gets to say a topic or a theme, like in a word or a phrase that you think we should talk about, and then we'll decide which ones to talk about. So, Lainey, what's a topic or theme that we should talk about?
Triplets or 3.
Threesome, 3. Yep. Okay. Leanne?
Steinian.
Cool. Sarah?
Plurality and singularity.
For me, a priori or a prioriness, prior assumptions, Genesis. Okay. Who came the furthest? I think, Sarah, where'd you come from today?
I came from Brooklyn today.
And you came from Queens. No. Where'd
No.
you come from? You
Chelsea.
came from Chelsea.
Yeah.
Sarah, sometimes you come from Queens. Sarah, you came the furthest. You get to decide which of those 4 themes or topics we should start with.
Well, I want to start with singularity and plurality because and paradox, the way that's mixed in. She uses cliches like the more the merrier, and then she changes it so it's the more the one the merrier, and also
Pretty funny though, huh? The more the one the merrier, because the more the merrier is like a come on, it's kind of a tease.
Yeah. And usually when you say commit, you commit sins, right? And she says commit such delights. Yeah.
Or you could have a committed relationship.
True.
That kind of commitment.
And she ends, my version in the Krupskaya book says, she doesn't read it this way. She says body, part, same, whole. But my version says body, part, whole, same. Mm-hmm. Whole spelled W-H-O-L-E. Yeah. So I like this relation between parts and wholes and kind of irreversibilities of words and substitutions.
Leanne, Laney, respond to that topic.
Well, one thing I noticed that when I read it first, the line "not" with a K, K-N-O-T, no with a K, now, that I read it in a different order, and then when she read it in a different order
got
too.
it confused too. Yeah.
So that reminds me of the part same whole. It's like that in a way it suggests that they can be rearranged and still mean something different. But that's this. I don't want to go to my topic, but that's the Steinian, like the permutational caressing and addressing all these words, But it's
Lainey?
Well, when you said parts and wholes, WHOLES, I couldn't think also, I couldn't help but also think about the erotics of parts and wholes, HOLES. So there's just tons of erotic play happening.
Mm-hmm. I'll just add the obvious, which is the whether it's a subtitle or it's a byline by the same authors. That's hilariously clever. If it's a ménage à trois, and it also defies the singularity of authorship and the singularities of affection.
She starts out the book Paramour saying, this is a very conservative book.
What do you think? Is that just ironic?
Well, I think it's tongue-in-cheek. Jackson McClough in his blurb says, "Who's she kidding? And why? Is it because her themes are love and poetic form and its heroes, her husband and the palindrome?"
Yeah, I agree with that. And also when
with seeing it as ironic?
With Sarah, also when she says, "I never read these, I was shy." I'm like, no, if you wouldn't write this if you were shy.
Well, also, I think that I love the recording at Buffalo because she said, "I don't want to take any more requests." And then someone shouts, "Ménage à trois!" And she's like, okay, Ménage à trois. There's something really clever about the choice of the poem from the start. You were going to say something, Leanne.
The recording surprised me a little because I think it's sped up incrementally because her voice to me sounded a little higher than it did in life. Like it seemed she's a little more, a little deeper, little tiny bit. Just,
and if you listen to the other
girlish,
recordings at Penn Sound, you'll see that that's the case. And this was, I think, this was probably cassette. And it was, the team, Susan Howe, or maybe even Creeley. He wasn't there anymore, but they used reel-to-reel, and they got the speed wrong often. So Penn Sound is full of these kinds of things. I'm glad you pointed that out. Okay, Steinian. Should we go to your theme?
I wanted to say about it is that Stein is such a powerful influence on so many people of our generation and before and after that it's really hard not to sound like her. And I think that Stacy does that miraculous thing of like taking the Steinian but then not sounding like Stein. Like it's like she makes it totally her own, but you can see the permissions and the playfulness there.
Example?
Yeah. Okay. Well, just a beginning has no beginning, all giving already given.
That's so Stein.
So Steinian.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, it has the echo of Stein, but like I think for one thing, Stein would have it. Well, in stanzas and meditation, she might have it in line breaks like that. But this, I always think of Stein having it like in these permutational sentences more. I mean, and there's just something about this the short lines of this poem that seem very what's the word? Just intricately wrought in a different way than Stein. But they're playful. I don't know. Like, what's an example? Lover, beloved. There's a permutational thing of words, but it feels different. But somehow I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe you can.
Well, I think it's the repetition that is really Steinian. We have a repetition of a lot of words over and over, but it's different every time. Like, a beginning has no beginning, and the word another, other, recurs maybe 4 or 5 times in the poem.
B.P. Nichol has it's a sound poem portrait of Stein, and it's in the beginning. It's just repeating. It sounds like B.P. Nichol's version of
Isn't that
Stein.
the beginning of the Holy Bible? In the beginning,
Yes, there is
In the
that.
beginning was the word.
There's that. Well, that was my topic is a priori genesis, so we will get back to that for sure. Okay, so while we're on the second stanza, which you mentioned, Leanne, can we do something about content, like what it says? As lover, in the context of Ménage à Trois, as lover, as beloved, as one another. Can we actually it's the fallacy of paraphrase. Can we actually paraphrase what's being said about Ménage à Trois, if anything?
Well, I am the lover, and I am the beloved, and I am an other at the same time. And when a ménage à trois happens, you are all those things at the same time.
And the use of as, which is set up as a classic English language and poetic comparative tool, becomes not just cleverer, but truer with three. As lover, as beloved, as one another.
And as one, because you're all united as one and one
Exactly.
another. Yeah.
So just to be pedestrian about this, well, there's nothing pedestrian about a ménage à trois, but to be straightforward about this, no, there's nothing straightforward. But to be plain about it, the advantages of three are being explored as opposed to the binarism of two. Fatuous statement, but can we comment on that?
Well, that gets into the three, which is what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, let's do it. And
The three.
were, am, are is a interesting threesome.
So here's like a quick overview that I'm seeing with the numbers. So we have the first stanza, we have three definitions of beginning. In the second stanza, we have three definitions of lover and beloved. In the third stanza, we have three words. And in the fourth stanza, we have three lines. And then we get to the second part
Including
of the
a
poem.
line that has three similar words, not
Right.
know now.
But then the second part of the poem, there's no third part of the poem. Right? So
Well,
there's
actually, there is.
definitely-
She told us it's
Oh,
longer,
it's
but she
somewhere
couldn't
else?
find it
I,
later.
I
in
looked
the
for
else.
it today. I couldn't find
I
it.
So maybe she's not
I looked
remembering
for
it?
it also, and yeah.
Maybe she
It's
didn't put it in
brilliant.
the book.
What a brilliant ploy.
I think it's there, but
No.
it's not named. It's not directly titled.
Stacy is speaking to us from beyond on this threesome because she implied in the only recording we have of this poem that there's more, but we weren't able to find
A lot
more.
of times in a reading, you have more, and then you don't put it in the book.
Well, that's the other thing. I wondered
reading
if
preceded the
with
publication.
the noticing that you did of the word order switch, which I also noticed, was this a version that was before the publication of the book, or was she just improvising and changing it as she read? And I'm not sure the answer to that.
If I'm remembering it correctly, the SUNY Buffalo reading came after the book was published.
Okay, so she's playing and she reads
It's
it.
hard to know. I think it's 2001, 2002, and the book comes out. Paramore is out in 2000.
She also says we in the reading instead of were.
Yeah, we are. And the thing I wanted to say about that either way, were, am, are, or we, am, are, sounds like we, amour.
Ooh, yes.
I love
we
that.
love. Yeah.
And
Leanne
we're
Brown. That's really good.
I love that.
amours.
And were is past, am is present, and are is like a plural present. So it's like three different.
What else is being redefined here? Number is being redefined, which was your suggestion, Lainey. But also the definition of who gives, who receives, who acts, who's acted upon. These are basic assumptions being questioned. And in the context of a poem written for an audience that requested it, it's complicated.
At the end, she says she says by Paramore.
Which means what?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. She.
At the end of that,
Well, yeah, but a paramour is like an
lover.
antique way of saying lover, like outside of marriage, and
It's not just antique. First of all, it should be paramours, plural, right? But it's not just antique. It is, it is a poetic idea, a muse or someone who is, Wallace Stevens has a poem called Something to the Interior Paramour. He's always had in his mind the figure of the woman that he would be writing for. So paramour has a loaded poetic connotation here. What do we make of not know now? I love the K-N-O-T there.
Isn't there some other knot that
She has a book called Not.
Not.
That came later, though.
Yeah,
K-N-O-T.
okay. K-N-O-T, yeah.
Love Not.
Came out in 2006. Yeah.
So it's after that. Can we riff on K-N-O-T in the context of this?
Well, all of these little stanzas of 3 words and 8 words are little knots for our unraveling, I think.
Absolutely.
And they're just tight and spun. I found a note that she wrote to me when I was reading this book. And she said, "Your worked poems accrue this gathered, taut, tightly wound, about to spring, maybe like that cat of yours, quality which is not the case for other writers necessarily."
Where's that from?
Wow, a note.
This is an email from October 19th, 2000.
Can you read that again?
Your worked poems accrue this gathered, taut, tightly wound about to spring, maybe like that cat of yours, quality which is not the case for other writers necessarily.
Sorry to be... This is unnecessary what I'm about to ask, but do you mind saying what you think the gist of that was, that statement?
I think she liked that my writing, this was before my first book, was very tight and taut and, the words wrapped around each other. So I think it does link with this, with Ménage à trois and the Valentine. And, yeah.
If this is, and I think you're right, if this is a either slight or major poetic statement, not simply about a love knot, but about the knottedness of of poetry she admires, in that case yours, then you've got a colon and then this fabulous line, which seems to be a ha-ha throw-off Ménage à trois sex line, but actually is something about the poetry. If it is something about the poetry, what are we going to do it? A delightful monism, the more, the one, the merrier. What's going on in the context of poetry in that line? And I just did something I try not to do because I asked a question that might actually not have an answer to this.
Well,
To say it might be a stupid question.
It's non-syntactical. The more, the one, the merrier. It's not a subject, verb, object kind
But
of
it's another
relation.
threesome, right, Lainey? The more,
It is, and
the
I'm
one,
also
the
here
merrier.
one as W-O-N, like triumph, which could be romantic triumph or the triumph of unknotting the poem or writing the poem.
Go ahead, Leanne. I'm sorry I cut you
And I
off.
just like multiplicity. There's a multiplicitous relationship between the 3 parts of the sentence, the phrase, and they can be rearranged.
Well, the more the merrier in the context of having fun with others in unconventional ways, not 2 but 3, means there is a pleasure. In context of poetry, when she's reading Sarah's poetry and is saying the values that I hold dear, knottedness, now I've found another poet who shares those values. This is a pleasure. The more the merrier. The more of us who are knotted, the merrier.
And those are knotted are like one, of one mind or affinity, maybe?
I think it was a kind of joyous revolt also
Right.
to technology of the proliferation of identities over email and the internet. She writes to the reader, and this is just a quote from inside the little preface, that this book is at the same time a reflection of the current technological, cultural, unconscious restructuring of space, a conception of the physical world in which locations and identities shift with radical illogic. And she's got so many identities and characters going through her Valentine, her 28 little poems in a kind of computer-generated calendar. And when I heard PhD for the 4th or 5th time today, it was the first time I heard HD.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's good. You've given us the perfect transition to the other poem, but let's do one more thing on this one, and then we'll go to that other poem. So the second part seems, in my reading, to go back to the special pleasures of sexuality with 3, of sex with 3. And it probably it does a lot more work, but let's stick with that. Commit such delights, talk over, look, one another, comes, light, smart, body part, whole, same. Leanne, what do we do with that? It's a kind of loving.
I hear the pigeons, or are they the penguins?
Pigeons have really discovered that we're having pleasure.
The flamingo mangoes.
You can't
morning
hear that.
doves in
We
the
are hearing
afternoon.
morning doves here in Lower Manhattan.
Cooing.
Well, there's a pleasure of not only looking, but talking. That's part of the pleasure. And
Talking over.
talking over each other and talking over everything. And then coming, of course, is orgasm, coming, and light, smart, body part. I'm not sure what to do with all that. Whole, same. Like the whole is the same of all the parts are united in a whole knot.
Yeah, and they are a prioris. All the parts are already given at creation of bodies, which refers to the beginning, which is Genesis. A beginning has no beginning. All giving, already given. The a priori is the already given, which is what the sexual delight is in the end. We are just exploring what was already given.
But I'm blanking out on the name of the classical book that she's playing with. What is it? Isn't there like a Ovid? It's Ovid, right? The love manual, manual how to be a lover. What's it called? It's in there. I didn't look it up before.
Let the record show that we should know this.
Yes.
It's what Jackson McClough says. The ancient and modern, high and low, Ovid and St. John of the Cross, D.H. Lawrence and Harper's Bazaar, Mozart, Joyce, and Michael Jackson.
All of those things.
Okay.
D.H. Lawrence. Jackson McClough talking
Thank
about
you,
D.H.
Jackson.
Lawrence. I mean, Jackson really delivered there. Okay, so we go to a month of Valentines, and I'm going to ask Sarah, who's got it, who's looking at it in the book, just to describe visually what it looks like.
Oh, it's like one of those wall calendars that you get with a picture. Imagine a picture on top, and then below the little cubicles. And she's got 28 of them for the month of February.
Which is when Valentine's Day occurs.
1, 2.
Right? So, and then we have the traditions of the Valentines. Now, how many days are in February?
28.
Depends on
28.
if
So
it's
this
leap
is,
year or not.
This is a special month, not simply because it's Valentine's Day. So there's the cliche, the background social, cultural cliche of Valentine's, but now we get 28 instances of it. Will you be my Valentine? And there are a lot of recipients. Can we name a few? Ondine,
Glycine,
Grace.
My love
Elodie,
Supreme.
Carp of the Day,
Marie Annie, and Ducky.
Wolfgang.
Butter,
Butter is fabulous.
So they're people mostly, but not only, right?
That's right.
So what are they other than people?
We have objects and we have animals, which also makes me think about Stein, more the objects than the animals.
Or nicknames. Teddy bear could be.
I mean, soft squirrel might not be the squirrel that's running around on her ledge. It might actually be some sweetie pie whom she calls my soft squirrel because you have nut brown eyes. 20 years later. Okay, so how are we supposed to, Leanne, how are we supposed to see it? How are we supposed to feel about a poem organized around days of the month?
Well, it's like looking into her date book and seeing, you don't have to read in order. You can just, your eye can land on one of the squares. It's like a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a grid.
Lainey, if you were Grace and you came upon the calendar, you would say, wait a minute, Stacy, there are 27 others. What about me?
I think it's an illustration about how a Valentine is for every day, not just one day, and every day should be a holiday for love. And Stacy once told me that it was her favorite holiday
Why do you think it was?
because it's every day for love. But it's not only just for one day, it's for every day. So it also becomes like when you look at your calendar and you write down what you have to do, it's like, okay, love, 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 love every single day.
So let's play, game isn't quite the right word, but let's imagine the different types of notes that are being left here. Some are just, oh, sweetie pie, I I like this, but some are other kinds of things. So let's each find one and talk about the type, subgenre. I'll start with an easy one, Connie H. I'll just look at that one. Yeah, I mean, it's like, this is a note to someone. It feels very particular, right? Since you got up on your bike, my seat is hot. My chain jumps. You know it's great to pedal beside you and hold your hips tight. You're loved. HD. Hard, hard. I dream of a motor to chug past your molars. Pudgy one. That is a love note. That's a sexy love note, right? I want you. So that would be one. I'd pick the easy one.
It makes me think of O'Hara, that one.
Yeah.
I have a kind of Marie Antoinette one.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Because Stacy lived in France quite a bit, and she loved French, and it gave her plural identities. And that plurality, I think, comes out in the Mary Annie. Love you, me, more, my loves yours, Oscar. And I want to read the French translation by a couple of friends of hers, Caroline Dubois and Anne Portugal, which has even more alliteration. Mary Annie, moi aimer toi, moi mieux mon amour de toi, Oscar.
But it's also like text messages, like you have your 60 textos book, like love mash note texts, like in an electronic world. You have to have a short note.
Do we have another one that's a slightly different kind of note or kind of linguistic statement? Or are they all the same?
They're all different. Butter me better.
Yeah, do that one.
So,
again.
I mean, it's the most spare, and it's so funny and it's so erotic. It's only 3 words. It's an instruction.
What do you think it means? I mean, if you take the comma out, I think I know what it means.
Yeah.
It's like more sex. But
Yeah.
but with the comma, it's addressed to butter. What do we do with that? Nothing.
Well, lube, or there's also body butter, but
And butter me up.
Yeah, butter me up. And Southern butter, and Stein has butter in her
She
work.
sure does.
Yeah.
And we know what that means. Build me a buttercup, don't forget. Okay. Another one that's somewhat different.
And butt, and tender buttons, and butt, or
Yeah,
but
I like the way you bring out your Southern
right. Southern butter.
Southern butter. So red rose, of course, rose. How did you get so red? Rose, C rose, HD. We got rose all over the place in February. What do we do with red rose? All leather, rare flowers, your cavalier lips, my ponytail puff to dinosaur shape. Let's fuck. PhD.
I love it. I think it's one of the funniest ones. I mean, because it's playing with these images, these, like a red rose is such a typical poetic cliche image.
Yeah.
But where it goes is completely unexpected in the poem.
And it's signed PhD. What does that mean?
It means you spend a lot of time and money going to school.
What else?
Well, I mean, we maybe associate a PhD with this kind of intellectual, very smart language. And this poem, this love note is not intellectual. It's corporeal.
So PhD is ironic,
Yes.
probably.
And ponytail puff. You don't think of a PhD having a ponytail puff, but she's saying, yes, they do.
Sarah, what do you think of this one?
Well, I mean, a rose is a rose is a rose is so modernist. And I just love the way there's this kind of jubilant, ludic, sexy listing of reference and kind of variants and going off in different directions. And, I don't know when she married Chet Wiener, but Paramore is dedicated to him. So he's won PhD.
Yeah. Ondine.
I feel like she's playing again with all these different registers and sources and tropes. So if Ondine is this mystical water spirit, and the lover is the toad, then that's also mixing up the story of Ondine. And
To
it's
say
an
the least, yeah.
interspecies romance.
Yeah, where does Muse come in?
Good question.
Mm.
I mean, the Ondine I know is one of Andy Warhol's
right.
friends.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And and that person, Ondine, was definitely a muse, played the role of muse, I should say, and put the sprite together with the Warholian, and you've got a really smart Ondine, amazing muse. You confound my root. Imagine 2 lives, those 2 figures internally fused. I don't know where Toad comes
And 2 lives reminds me of 3 lives, which is Stein.
from. Or 28 lives. Let's say overall, this is an experiment in calling. It's a center fold. It's not really a center fold, but it's the centerpiece in the book, right, Sarah? It's a.
She
Double.
calls it that.
She called it a center fold, I think. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's a centerpiece. So it's crossing from the recto to the verso. It's actually from the verso to the recto. And what's the impact of reading a book of already experimental poetry and coming upon a calendar with little poems that are superficially ridiculous? That is to say, they are little Valentines, like you would get in your 2nd grade mailbox in your school.
What? I mean, I'm just being associational, but it reminds me of, you know, that Lorene Niedecker calendar poems where she
Those
writes
are great.
on the calendar pages.
Yeah.
There's
She
a
wrote-
whole genre of great calendars.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it was, I don't think that Lorraine meant them to be published. I think we found them, and the great editors of Niedecker decided these were poems written in, not always inside the box, but around it. But yes, similar, right? Little daily notes. And there's somewhere back there is, Williams leaving a note on the refrigerator, this kind of thing, or, yeah.
Another French reference is when we're talking about how the notes are all different styles, it makes me think of Quinault's exercises in style.
Yeah,
So-
can you say a little more about that?
So 99, is it? Or is it more than 99? I always say 99. 99 different styles of the same anecdote told over and over. So if you read it, you can try writing the same thing over and over again in different styles. So we might say there's like a style that's rainbow, there's a style that's on the train, there's a style that's hyperbole, and in here we have the style of what a squirrel would write or a PhD would write, or I don't know.
That's funny when you say Quinault. I thought you were going to talk about the everyday life of users manual, because it looks like the apartment building with the different rooms and everybody having their own lives in the grid.
She also uses the metaphor of the lady's compact mirror, that it opens up symmetrically, and you can look at yourself. And
Where's that?
it's in the foreword, to the reader.
Let's go around twice. First time, what would people listening to PoemTalk or watching PoemTalk, who don't know Stacy Doris, or maybe just incidentally know Stacy Doris's work, what do these 2 poems, this is unfair because it's only 2 poems of many, but what do these 2 poems say generally to potential readers of Stacy Doris's poems that they should observe or know about? What can we generalize from the choice of these 2 poems? And the second time around will be a chance for the 3 of you, to reminisce about Stacy Doris, the person much missed, to say something personal about the life and the work. And then, of course, there's a third go-around, which is our final thoughts. So, first, I don't know if you're ready, but who wants to go first? Say something about what is it about these two poems that allow you to make a generalization about Stacy Doris that works.
I could go first and just say that I think of Stacy as this amazing love poet, and especially in this book, who doesn't shy away from erotic and inventiveness.
Wonderful, thank you. Leanne Brown.
That she's very intertextual and always has a million beings in her work. Like when she has, what's the book with the plays? I mean, like she has always a million beings coming through.
Conference?
Yeah, conference. Yeah. So there's a learnedness, but it's totally remade for her own purposes. Yeah.
Good, thank you. Sarah?
Yeah, I would say that there's a tendency toward plurality of voices, although it might be a little different in her last book, Fledge. But she, she would often, for readings, compose with, she'd have like 9 readers,
Right.
with different voices and different languages. And I think that you feel that in this poem selection.
Yeah.
That she didn't have to be the sole speaker. In fact, she
Right.
thrived on the multiplicity.
Yeah, I want to add to that, which is it's pretty clear from these two poems that this poet is committed to multiplicity. In the first poem, 3, which is barely multiplice, but suggests towards something that's more than one, and that becomes something that's merrier than one or 2. And of course, in the Valentines, it's just 28 ways of looking at Valentine's Day. And Eglantine, dip my plume in your ink again, so long, sailor. That is a mini meta-poem which has a sexual connotation or love connotation, but the idea is, let's see, I'm the writer, you got the ink, dip the thing that you write with in my ink, and we will make something together. There is a kind of generosity of authorial spirit there that's clearly in the two poems. I invite the 3 of you to reminisce, say something personal about Stacy Doris, or something that you learned from her personally and poetically.
Oh, she just, everything she would say was very charged. She was one of those people that spoke poetry, even if it was just a casual thing. And one close mutual friend said something about that she was always 30, even when we were in college. And I was like, that wasn't quite right to me, but it was getting at this sense of, she was an old soul, I guess people call it. But like she had this poetic weight to her language. Like she would live in a poetic space a lot, and we'd have adventures in poetic space. Yeah.
I guess I just want to say that it's connected to what you were just saying, Leanne. I feel like Stacy was always wiser than her years. Even when we were all very young poets together, and she always gave the best advice. Like she seemed to be able to be inside and close to a situation and then also see it from a lot of other perspectives as well. And that wisdom, I think, allowed a lot of greatness of experiment in her poetics as well. Like she could somehow see more perspectives than most people, and she also made herself available, like she was always right there, intimate friend.
She also had a very adventurous spirit. She loved Greece, living in Greece. And she partly raised her little children there, and she liked to swim and go far out with Chet. And look at the light. At one point, she was really very adamant that I needed to snorkel, just to look at the movement of the light under the water. And this was a major source of inspiration and pleasure. And she felt Greek. People looked at her as a Greek woman. And I think, she was also learning Arabic. She traveled extensively in Morocco and, of course, the years in France. So I think at one point she had me write out the numbers in Arabic for her. And I looked up to her as a kind of big sister of poetry when I was sort of new to the creative spirit.
Thank you all three. And it's perhaps hard to do final thoughts at the end of this, but I really think it's right to do it. So the final thought can be a continuation of what you just said, or something that you wanted to say about these poems or about the poetry that you haven't had a chance to. You thought about it, you got here, it didn't get covered, and now you want to add it. So, Leanne Brown, final thought.
Well, I alluded to some adventures we had in college, and I was just thinking about, we went to Moonstone Beach one night in Rhode Island. Like, she's like, let's go. And we did the adventure, and we went in the car to this beach where the water would pull the phosphorescence up on the stones. It was just this magical night. I just always remember that. Yeah.
I'll just add about the Valentines that one of the pleasures in reading is that it seems like we're reading these private notes that are not for us, kind of like eavesdropping. And there's this absurdity, but also heartfeltness at the same time.
I think I love the theatrical aspects of her work and the way that it was dramatized at the Musée des Zadkines in Paris for the Conference of the Birds, I believe it was. And in Lyon, in an apartment, Paramour, there was a bed with actual doves flying out of the bed. And so...
Wow.
That's an amazing
There's
image.
an image. Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you all. I like to end Poem Talk with a minute or two of gathering paradise, which is our Dickinsonian way of saying that we want to spread wide our narrow hands to gather something good going on in the poetry world, the dance world, the visual art world. And to really do this right, I want to invite Sasha Davis and Brittany Cassandra, the leadership team here at the Gross Foundation, to join us. We have chairs for them. Okay. Hi, Sasha. Oops, excuse me. You're good. Okay, so we're each going to gather paradise, and when it comes time for Brittany and Sasha, we'll have to share microphones. So who's ready to gather paradise? I know Leanne Brown was not ready, but I bet you are now. Why don't we start with Lainey Brown? Gather some paradise.
I would like to recommend a book called Paradox. That's Paradox with
Kate
two
Colby's book?
X's by our dear friend Kate Colby, published by Essay Press. And it's a series of short memoiristic lyric essays, which is also a memoir of reading. And it gives us insight into her development of her poetics. She writes, quote, "What's changed more since I was born, the world or my perception of it?" And it's just funny and smart and amazing.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'd like to recommend Liliane Giraudon's Love is Colder Than the Lake, which I co-translated with Lindsay Turner. She's a Marseille Provençal writer who's not yet 80. And it's a fierce, revelatory, experiential, linguistic twist and dance that moves through some of Fassbinder with photos. And I really enjoyed translating it. And one of the main reasons I did was to bring it all to you.
Can you spell the name for us?
Giraudon is Giraudon, Liliane.
Thank you so much. Okay, Leanne, you got one?
Oh, I collaborate on a space in our home in Chelsea called Torn Page, and we're having a Day of the Dead, All Souls Day open altar to read poetry of recently departed and not so recently departed poets, just on November 2nd in the afternoon, and it's an open call to bring things for the altar, poems and flowers and whatever, and also just thinking about how our work extends those voices and remembers them, and that's what we're doing today. And then ModPo does all the time, bridges the life and death.
I want to turn and get the microphone to Brittany Cassandra for hers, but as that's being set up, Leanne Brown, modest person, well, not always modest, but in this moment, your space, the space that you and Tony have created is worth mentioning on PoemTalk, probably mentioned before. You say something about it, what the goal is, where it is?
Well, it's called Torn Page because of the actors Rip Torn and Geraldine Page, who were my husband's parents, and they always wanted to make that space be available as a studio, and so we've sort of brought that to life. But it's also part of a larger idea of like living room readings that have gone on forever in different places, but salons, like I know Sarah does that at her house, and Lainey's done that. Different people do it. Julie Patton does it in Cleveland, and she calls it the overgrown railroad. I mean, this whole idea of poetry delivery in person, not just in institutional spaces. So we're here in a living room right now, but it's so good to hear poetry in person out loud in a circle. And that's what I'm committed to. And we have this practice of being a home for that. And our website is tornpage.org, and you can see what's coming up.
Thank you. I slipped in an extra Gathering Paradise, but I'm glad I did.
And a chance to me to say the website.
And right, exactly.
Thank you.
Brittany Cassandra, Director of Collections here at the Gross Foundation. What's your recommendation?
So we actually just reinstalled a lot of our photographs at the foundation. And so that's, part of this exhibition that's up for a little while called Art and Life that was curated by our previous NYU Public Humanities Fellow, Corey Reisinger. Sorry. But it highlights, just a few, of our photos in probably over 4,500 photos that we have in the collection, and just kind of shows, the life of Chaim and Renee, and they're kind of like images from the early 30s when they first met, right after they got married, to, a photo by Allen Ginsberg of the two of them sitting at the dining room table that we're not that far from right now, in the 1980s. And so it's just really, this great kind of view into their life, and their friends and kind of this community that, this place kind of shows. So that's my recommendation. So.
Thank you so much, Brittany, and also thank you for making it possible for us to be here. And now Sasha Davis, the Executive Director of the aforementioned foundation.
Thank you, Al. I would like to make a recommendation of a film that's on our website. So the website is rcgrossfoundation.org. And it's a documentary film done in 1938, and it's called Tree Trunk to Head. And when I say tree trunk to head, I mean literally it's Chaim Gross starting with a block of wood, making some sketches of his wife Renee, and then executing a portrait of her. And it's not only a really good way to see how a sculptor works in wood, all the steps that it takes, how physically demanding and active it is, but it also gives you a little bit of an insight into what an artist's studio looked like in the late 1930s in New York. This was 63 East 9th Street, so just a few blocks from where we're seated right now, and also shows you a little bit of their relationship, which was extremely playful. And I will leave it at that. You have to watch the film. It's originally was shot on 16 millimeter, and it's about 27 minutes, so it's well worth your time.
Thank you so much, Sasha, and once again for opening your doors to us. Okay, my Gathering Paradise has to do with the Gross Foundation. This is the catalog of a show called Artists and Immigrants, and you guys put it together. And this is what, 2022? 2022. So this is before the election of the second Trump administration, and it features, I think, 50 immigrant artists. And of course, Renee and Chaim were immigrants, Jewish immigrants to New York. And is this the right time for me to be holding this up to celebrate the incredible, not simply talent, but the productivity of immigrant artists in New York? If anybody actually thinks for a second that it's not a good idea to have people emigrate to the United States and become part of artists' communities and then produce great art, then they're crazy. So this is a really good. And do you want to say a word about this show?
Yeah, so this originally started out as a sort of COVID era project where we were looking at all these different artists in our collection. We started to do a very involved Zoom set of lectures, and then it was such a great idea that it evolved into the exhibition and the catalog. The catalog was supported very generously by the Robert David Lyon Gardner Foundation, and it has 4 separate essays, one by me, Brittany, and then also 2 from our former predoctoral fellows. And for anyone who wants a copy of this, you can get one in person by visiting us, or you can also find it online for free.
Wow. Does that mean that the one I grabbed from the table I can keep?
Yes.
And you each have an essay in it. That's just fantastic. All right, thank you so much. Well, that is all the still loving the nut brown squirrel after 20 years we have time for on PoemTalk today. PoemTalk at the Writer's House is a collaboration of the Center for Programs in Contemporary Writing, Penn Sound, and the Kelly Writers House of the University of Pennsylvania. Thanks so much to my guests, Lainey Brown, Leanne Brown, spelled differently, E at the end of Lainey, no E at the end of Leanne, although I think you might consider changing it since you're so close, the two of you. Which one of you is going to... Never mind.
No, because I could say like the color.
And, okay.
Like the nut brown squirrel.
And Sarah Riggs. Thank you, Sarah, coming the furthest today. And thanks also, well, actually, wait a minute, I came the furthest, and so did Lainey. And thanks also to PoemTalk's directors and engineers today, Chris Martin, who's handling the video. He usually handles the audio, and Magda Andrews-Hoke, expertly dealing with the audio. See if you can fix this. Well, I'll make some extra noise. You got some work to do. Okay. And to PoemTalk's editor, the wonderful and much missed today, Zach Gardner. And thanks again to Brittany and to Sasha and to Mimi Gross. Mimi, shout out to you, Mimi. I know you're listening to this and watching it, for supporting our use of the Gross Foundation. And I want to remind everybody that the Gross Foundation is what we call a 501c3. It is a nonprofit organization. It does everything to make art available to anyone. So that means that they need your help. I'll just say that. How did I do?
Thank you, Al, too.
And this is Al Filreis, and I hope you'll join us again next month for another episode of PoemTalk. And I believe Sarah Riggs might even be the very next PoemTalk in Philadelphia. And we're doing a Tel Adnan, and what poems, do you remember what poems we're doing? I barely remember, but from the book you translated.
It's from Time.
It's from Time. Mm-hmm. Really looking forward to that. Thank you all.